What happens when a manufacturer makes a huge mistake at the factory on a $300,000 motorhome?
It really is a slap in the face to their customers to tell us that it's our fault, not theirs.
Welcome to the channel. I'm Liz. I get people the help they need when they're stuck in an RV nightmare. That help has included factory repairs, cash settlements, extended warranties, and a boatload of buybacks. None of this could have happened without you liking, subscribing, and sharing, making this channel the force that it is. In today's video, Andy and Liz have quite the story, and I may look calm right now, but inside I am livid. Be sure to watch Jayco's response and why it has made me so mad later in the video.
We are longtime RVers. This is our fourth RV and our second Class A, so we're not new to this. We've bought new before, so we know that there's growing pains that come with a new RV. When we made the jump to the Entegra, we thought we were getting into our forever RV. We were going to sell our house and we were going to live in our RV.
After a great deal of research, one of the things that we really wanted was a much better driving platform and a little bit higher level of luxury than we previously had. The floor plan was going to really suit us well, having a little bit more living space. It felt like a very, very good fit on paper. That's why we chose it.
I think the first signs of trouble were actually picking it up. We drove up to Ocala, Florida, with an appointment that had been scheduled, and they were not ready for us, which was a little disconcerting. We went through the normal walkthrough, created a punch list. We never saw that punch list again. Fortunately, I had been writing things down for myself because we never received a copy of it. Oddly enough, when we brought the RV home and I started doing some straightening up and cleaning up, I found a punch list from the sales team to Entegra with issues that were not taken care of. When they received it, there were already issues. It was raining. I went outside to the RV with the awning open over the stairway, and I opened the front door and the water just poured behind where the awning sits on the rig into the rig stairwell. And I'm getting soaked, and simply just thought that the awning wasn't attached correctly.
We started using the RV on short trips and then longer ones, and along the way noticed a couple of LED lamp lenses that would fall out, places where the trim and so on were a little bit loose, so they were nuisances and just annoying items. But we did notice that there was a spot where there was a little bit of delamination underneath the toll window next to the driver's seat, and it was down low close to the floor. Didn't think too much of it, figured we would just note that to be looked at a later time.
We then started noticing things weren't working. Little things like the toggle switch for the shades were intermittently working. We would see that our batteries weren't charging correctly. Underneath the dash, wires weren't necessarily connected correctly, so we thought maybe it's just a loose fitting. But we were starting to have more and more system problems as we were moving along. Not to mention that in the back bedroom where we slept, we were having a whole different set of problems. Everything was covered in diesel dust. Every time we went anywhere, it was coming into our bedroom and it was on all the furniture. The concerns really started, and then one day I was doing a deep clean of the rig and I saw that there had been signs of water all along the bottom of the front windshield. And that's when I went to Andy and said, I think we've got a problem. And we immediately got in touch with Entegra.
We've owned the RV for 11 months, and we thought, well, we'd better hurry up and make sure that we get this reported so that it can be addressed under warranty. At that time, we actually didn't realize that the warranty term was 2 years, but nevertheless, we tried getting it addressed. There were no slots at all anytime in the foreseeable future to bring the RV to Jayco in Middlebury. The first appointment they were able to offer was in January of 2025. By the time January rolled around, we had actually experienced our first truly substantial failure, which was with the AquaHot system. The AquaHot provides both hot water for washing as well as the actual heat. So we brought it to a nearby dealership in Fort Pierce. I believe we went 6 weeks or so without heat in the RV. And that was because it took quite a while to get the authorization for the warranty claim and then more time to get the part. I contacted AquaHot themselves and Jayco and asked, can you just ship me the part? It's warranted. I'm happy to put it in myself. But they said that the only way they could ship me that part would be if I bought it. The only way you can get it under warranty is to go through Jayco's process. And that process took 6 weeks. Should have taken less than 6 days.
We ended up having to reschedule our appointment at Entegra for a couple of reasons. One, we had no heat. So driving up into the north with no heat in the RV was a little precarious. We can't do it in a day. And so that meant staying overnight, and staying overnight with no heat meant the possibility of things freezing and having to winterize our unit and driving with it winterized. Secondly, we had a family emergency. Third of all, they shortened our visit down to 3 days. And so to drive 2.5 days there, and that's hoofing it, to have 3 days of repairs, which wasn't the case, and then have to drive 3.5 days back seemed ridiculous to us. So the next available date they gave us was in August. So we're talking September to January, January to August, and this is what their windows of repair look like. During that time, we lost one of our air conditioning units.
The rear unit had completely stopped working. So we brought it to General RV in West Palm Beach. They once again apologetically explained that this is a matter of working with Jayco to wait for the authorization. It's worth noting at this point that a factory authorized repair location, General RV, inspected the roof at that time and did not find anything of concern. They reported that everything looks fine with the roof, both before and after. And obviously some of this is for their own protection. If there was no leak beforehand and there was a leak afterwards, then we would hold them to blame. They installed the new air conditioner when we were out of service for approximately a month. And now we're talking about June in South Florida, where having air conditioning is just as important as having heat in January.
Then I started getting the RV ready when we got it back, because we had this long trip planned. We were going up to Entegra, leave the rig with them for 4 days, because again, that's all they gave us, then take off from there to go on our vacation. While I'm getting the rig ready, I'm noticing that things that should work are no longer working. The overhead light in the main area won't turn on. Maybe it's just a fuse. Maybe I can fix the fuse, but I couldn't figure out at all why it wasn't working. And then on the trip up, we're driving, and all of a sudden Andy goes, "We don't have any headlights." Now we're down to, we can only drive during daylight hours. We made it there. They supposedly fixed the diesel coming back in to the master bedroom. They replaced the little light covers that were falling down. A lot of things were just put off or just partially done. We told them that we were having a problem with the inverter at that point, and they went through and said that we were doing something wrong, that it was user error. We had told them that we thought that the water was coming in through the toll window. They tore everything out and said that they think that the toll window was fine. They put it through their water bay and they said it was holding safe. They gave us our days, and then they said, well, we can't really fix everything now. Of course not, because 4 days is nowhere near enough time. We asked, can we come back at the end of our trip?
So now we're leaving the Jayco factory with a new date to return for them to complete repairs at the end of September.
We were told that the rig was safe, that it would work through the trip.
We're heading off out west to see the national parks in the Pacific Northwest.
So we're driving, we lose our air conditioning. We notice that the fireplace is no longer working. We were having fuses popping all over the place. The refrigerator was popping off. Right before this trip, Andy said, you know what, let me just buy a battery backup for the RV. Thank God he did, because that was the only thing that was keeping our refrigerator on. We were just losing things left and right, and they kept saying that we were doing something wrong. On some of these places where we need to dry camp, we're noticing that our batteries aren't charging correctly. We're using the generator to charge. We know that they get trickle charge from the solar panels on top, but they're just not really getting the charges they're supposed to get. We get to Crater Lake, our batteries are running lower than normal, and we're having to run our generator nonstop to keep enough juice in our batteries to keep the refrigerator charged. And that's it. We're using handheld battery lanterns to light us up at night, and we get to Mount Rainier. We go to bed one night, we wake up, and our chassis battery reads 0 and our house battery reads 0. Are we going to be able to start our rig? And we really had a hard time getting the rig started. This trip was the trip of a lifetime, and it was the most terrifying trip. Excuse me.
Well,
Every night we went to bed terrified of what we were going to find in the morning. Then we're fortunate we go back into full service hookups, and then we take off to go to North Cascades. We wake up again with no juice. We managed to get the rig started again, but we did not have enough power to pull the stairs in. So we're driving from North Cascades National Park to Glacier National Park with our stairs out. We managed to call and get hold of a couple of batteries that matched our system. We get to Glacier National Park, and I think that's where I noticed that the sliders weren't working correctly. For a long time, we had been complaining to them about the sliders. I happened to be underneath getting something out, and I look up and I can see the bottom of the back sliders is all torn up, which means that it's not riding correctly on its rails. And then I go and I'm getting ready to cook and I go, our counter is cracked at the kitchen sink where it was coming in together as a seam. It had completely separated and the awning over the kitchen slider is tearing. I'm starting to panic a little bit that this rig is literally falling apart on us.
Now, if you're shopping for a used RV, you'll definitely want to replace your mattress. But did you know if you're shopping for a new RV, those mattresses can be like cardboard, even if you spend over $100,000. For the last 4 years, I've been sleeping on an RV mattress by Brooklyn Bedding. I used to wake up feeling stiff and sore, and I thought, well, that's just because I'm getting older. But ever since I've had the Brooklyn Bedding mattress, I wake up pain-free, refreshed, and I feel great. I have the Aurora Luxe, which has a built-in chill pad, and I love it. RV Mattress has free shipping right to your door. It's super easy to set up, and it's fun to watch it puff up. They have a 120-night sleep trial and a limited lifetime warranty. If you're interested in an RV mattress by Brooklyn Bedding, just go to rvmattress.com/LizAmazing, put in the coupon code LizAmazing, and you'll save 30%.
It was definitely nerve-wracking trying to get back to the Entegra site.
The stop in Spokane to replace the house batteries, that did help quite a bit, but it did not change the fact that the charger portion of the inverter was not functioning correctly. We believe that that is the third malfunction that can be related back to the water entry that the rig was sustaining. That water entry up to this point has still not been diagnosed. It's been incorrectly diagnosed as a toll window leak. After we left Spokane with fresh house batteries, our electrical problems are largely solved as long as we are charging from the chassis engine, but nothing going through the inverter charger was working. This was the time that I think we really had solid evidence that the inverter charger had been damaged to the point where it wasn't going to work anymore. And while crawling around underneath to replace these batteries, we saw that there was actually water on some of the electrical lines leading to the inverter charger. And there's no reason for water to be under there unless it has come in from outside. And for it to get that deep into the coach coming in from outside is pretty serious. Then that made us start to realize some of the other things that we had seen as early symptoms of water entry. To begin with, one of the things that Liz noticed right away with the water pouring into the entryway with the awning open. It wasn't just the awning that wasn't installed right. It turns out that the entire seal that was supposed to protect the seam between the roof cap and the sidewall was absent. We learned this later when we returned to the Jayco factory. The same was true on the driver's side and in the area near the windshield. And that made us realize, well, maybe that has something to do with why the overhead light in the living space doesn't work, because that's right there in the ceiling. And if the water worked back there, then that would be an issue too. This also was the first sign, which was validated later, that the water had actually penetrated the subfloor of the coach all the way back to the bathroom, more than halfway back in the RV. And right underneath that same spot where water had damaged the subfloor is where the aquahot was located. It seems likely that some of the electrical issues with that could have been attributed to the water entry. And then last but not least, the air conditioner, the circuit breakers for all of that are located in the master bedroom, and the wiring for that is located underneath the floor as well. So it seems likely that that same water entry might have caused that problem to begin with as well. Lots of symptoms that we had seen up until this point that could all be attributed back to a single root cause. And I cannot overemphasize the fact that after more than a year and a half of ownership, when General RV worked on this coach and had to remove and reinstall install an air conditioning unit, and they performed their own inspection of the roof, saw nothing wrong. And that's not on them, because what was missing was not visible from the outside. What was missing is the seal that would be concealed by the candy cane molding on the outside of the RV. It was an assembly error at the original time of manufacture.
Because they had never sealed underneath the candy cane, which again is a finishing piece, they never sealed between the walls and the ceiling of the RV. Water came in, it had no way to keep it from coming in, and it caused the structure of the house portion to completely be wet and malleable. Everything was twisting and moving in a way that it shouldn't have. That ultimately caused the counter to crack, the awning to start to tear, the sliders to not function properly and start ripping the bottom of the one back in the bedroom, and ultimately mold growth.
We later learned that this bit of exterior molding known as the candy cane is largely decorative. In a finished RV, the only way to know that the functional water seal is absent would be by removing the candy cane, which is somewhat of a destructive job.
Which is what they ultimately did.
Big picture wise, if you imagine an RV as a rectangular box that you've placed a lid on top of, and then the way that you keep water from coming in between the lid and the tops of the walls of the box is by sealing it. That sealant was missing on this RV. We complete our trip out west and start to head east to Indiana with a new understanding of where the water is probably entering the rig, and with a promise from Jayco, the motorized coach, to complete all the repairs at the end of September. Drop off the coach a few days later, I received a call from Patty informing us that they've actually found quite a bit of damage and that they would like to keep the coach for another 6 weeks or longer. Upon returning to Indiana to gather our personal belongings out of the RV, we were shown the RV inside their service facility with all of the flooring material ripped out through 25 feet worth of the length of the RV, with the tow window out and all of the dash trim out and everything completely removed, in the process of replacing all of the subfloor, which had been soaked by this water entry.
Our son stayed on the rig with us a couple of times before we did this big trip, just a couple of nights. He was so sick both times after coming off the rig. Well, we were seeing black mold now forming on the floor of the rig, or mold of some sort, and he was sleeping in ground zero, so to speak, right where all this mold was building. The walls between the exterior and the living space, all of the wood framing was completely soaked for an extended period of time because we had no clue that water was coming in the way they built this. And it completely damaged the integrity of this unit. This rig was completely shifting because it was so wet. If you take a piece of wood and you soak it for long periods of time, you can now move that wood. And this is supposed to be a stable structure. That's not. We started thinking about, they sent us out in this rig. Not only were we having issues with the electrical systems, with all of these other problems, but our safety was put at risk as well. We were assured that it was safe, and it was not. I started printing out the daily worksheet updates that they were giving us because I started noticing changes that had been previously documented that were suddenly gone. They would say this should have been done and it wasn't done. That's missing now. We can't even show that that's there because it was gone. We saw that our August worksheets that they were giving, we had no access to anymore. They had turned them off. We were trying to go through everything and try and find things because we were terrified that they're going to come back and say there was nothing wrong with the rig, and we have no way to show that because they closed down the files.
When we left, the thinking was that 6 weeks later, the RV would either be fixed to our satisfaction or not, or they would buy it back or something like that. Instead, they completed the repairs in approximately 8 weeks' time, and the coach was delivered back to us. And one of the very first things we noticed, one of the slides did not function at all.
We started having the lights falling off again. I noticed that on one of the other sliders, the coating is delaminating on the outside of the rig, and the loft bed, which we do utilize when people are coming, plumbing is installed so badly and at such an angle that if somebody were to sleep in it, they'd roll right off of it. It was really just slapped back together to get back to us. And when we started talking to them about, hey, none of this is okay, and our rig is completely devalued because of what you've done or because of what you didn't do. And I actually at one point even said to Andy, I'm not sure we want to take back ownership of this because of how badly damaged it was.
Fixing the slide that was not working turned out to be relatively easy. They talked me through what might be wrong, and I found a wire that had become disconnected from its harness. So I reconnected that. The coach is more or less repaired right now. There's still a few nuisance things, but the one thing that cannot be changed about this coach is it was not manufactured correctly to start with. It was manufactured with a defect that permitted water to enter the coach over a period of approximately 2 full years before the root cause was addressed. Although Jayco has addressed that root cause under warranty, and in fact even extending a few weeks beyond the warranty coverage period during a time which they characterized the work as goodwill rather than warranty, that really makes no difference in terms of the value of the coach. The coach now has a history of water damage, and in addition to that, that's just the problem that we found. What else was manufactured incorrectly? What other lapses in workmanship might exist within this coach that are waiting to be found?
We know they fixed the wood, or supposedly fixed the wood from the bathroom forward, but we don't know if there was an issue that went further back than that. Trust in this machine is gone. I am very anxious anytime we think about taking this specific rig out again. And then, of course, I don't trust this company anymore, who then turned around and tried to blame the water intrusion on us. They stated that we should have found the water intrusion. We should have known that there was a problem and got it to them earlier, when we had not only the general RV team down here who had looked at it and saw no problem, but their own workmen the first time we brought it in did not find this problem. It really is a slap in the face to their customers to tell us that it's our fault, not theirs. We are seasoned RVers. What happens to somebody who doesn't know anything?
We did make a request to them formally to buy back the RV. I did receive an email from somebody in their customer service department that they would give us 3 months worth of payments on the RV, and I believe a 60 or 90-day extension on the warranty repairs that they had just performed. I felt that was completely insufficient. I offered some options for what I thought was more fair. He escalated that after a few emails on my part insisting that he do so, and the manager stood by what the offer was and felt that they had been more than fair with us.
We paid $307,000 for this RV. That was supposed to be a luxury level RV with higher quality items on it from a company that was supposedly trustworthy. And we received a vehicle that was not safe, that was not sealed, that was not sound. And we received a runaround in trying to get it fixed. And when we did finally get it fixed, we received blame for the manufacturing defects. And now we're being offered 3 months payment as an I'm sorry. We had many weeks where we couldn't use it, time lost from work for Andy, items that we had to purchase, including 2 new batteries, the amount of time that we spent fixing this item, airline tickets, rental cars, and then the cost of traveling to and from Entegra without plan, and that we had to cut our vacation short. We have this very expensive item sitting on our driveway that is not safe to use as far as we're concerned. We are changing our travel plans to stay in hotel rooms instead of staying in the RV. And that's not how we do things. We like to travel with our dogs. We no longer can do that. We like to be able to just go, and we can no longer do that. We want them to buy this unit back. We don't trust it. We don't trust their company. I don't think that this is something that we could sell and get our money back from.
Here is Jayco's response. They say it's the customer's fault for delaying the service appointment with a known water leak. Jayco says they've gone above and beyond to make the repairs and even offered to compensate them. So Andy replies, it's true that we did originally schedule factory service in January 2025. As you know, they didn't have heat to get up there, but also Jayco shortened their 2-week appointment down to 4 days because their personnel would be absent for the Tampa RV show. And Jayco's next availability was all the way until August. But here's what I think is absolutely crucial in all this. Even after roof checks and extensive factory testing, Jayco misdiagnosed the issue as a toll window leak and declared the coach safe with electrical problems dismissed. The true cause and extent of the damage weren't discovered until months later. So Jayco is offering for all of this just a few months payment and an extended warranty on the repairs that they did. If you are as outraged as I am, absolutely push this video out there to get Jayco to sit up and take notice. And I also invite you to contact Jayco. Leave messages on their socials, call them and email them if you think that this is not right, that somebody spends $300,000 on a motorhome and gets blamed for something that absolutely was not their fault. I will definitely keep you posted on this case. Let me know in the comments what you think Jayco should do. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.